Hi, good day, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Steve Heckler, president of Accelebrate, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Tim Ahlenius. Tim is vice president of strategic initiatives at AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com is a web development, software development, and e-commerce marketing firm that is based in the Chicago area, but is worldwide with 17 locations. We're proud to have them both as a client and a partner. If you're not familiar with Accelebrate, I'll say just a few quick words to introduce us. Tim, if you don't mind advancing us there. First of all, after today's presentation, if you would like to review it and share with your friends, please visit our Accelebrate YouTube channel or come out to accelerate.com/library/videos. If you do visit our YouTube channel, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And just a couple of quick words about Accelebrate. We are an IT training and data science training firm. We deliver private classes for clients. We were founded in 2002, and we deliver more than 1,400 days a year of training, both at client sites and online. In a typical pre-COVID year, we would find ourselves at more than 30 US states and in half a dozen or more countries. In the current era, we are doing a little bit of in-person training and a whole lot of very engaging hands-on real-time online training for our clients who are distributed throughout the world. You can see some of the topics that we teach. We are especially known for our training in data science topics, in cloud, robotic process automation, software development, and many other areas. We pride ourselves in tailoring the training that we deliver to your group's prior experience and goals. Typically, trainings that we deliver are for 3 or more individuals. As I noted, I'm going to yield the floor to Tim, but just to introduce him again, Tim is the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at AmericanEagle.com, a leading global website and e-commerce development firm, as well as an Accelebrate partner. Tim, welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Steve. I'm excited to talk through the topic for today and to just, be part of the Accelebrate webinar process. Looking forward to this one and hopefully more in the future as well as we go into 2022.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you.
So as Steve mentioned, I'm with AmericanEagle.com, VP Strategic Initiatives, been in the industry for over 20 years. And with that, I've been wearing many hats over my career. So from all aspects of when I started a company in college for sales and running the business and running the servers and programming to design, all that led me into the fun role of strategy and being technically minded enough that developers can't pull the wool over my eyes, but also not savvy enough to continue my coding skills, which honestly I am happy to leave behind as of where I'm at in today's world. Very exciting areas though. I always try and go back and dabble a little bit, and excited to talk through and present to you today a bit more about some fun topics. AmericanEagle.com is a great partner of Accelerates, and we appreciate the opportunity to present to all of you. We have been in business for over 25 years. We are nationwide with a lot of office locations in the US, but also internationally, we have been expanding and growing. We have 650 plus employees, and we offer full service aspects of creative, digital, and technology. Core capabilities, plethora of them. I'm not going to go through all those because I really want to get to the meat of today's webinar, which is all about buzzwords. So a lot of these services involve those different buzzwords. And from the implementation and delivery side, that's where we can support you. And as Steve mentioned, Accelerate has the training side to bring your skill set up to speed with the different areas that you may be interested in. So our 10 buzzwords for the day. We are going to be talking through each one of these and really understanding their impact. And while not all of them are new for 2022 as we head into the next year, a lot of them are having a bigger focus in 2022 from businesses focusing on how to implement these different areas. And a lot of the different solutions that are out there, platforms and SaaS solutions as well, that are focusing on these buzzwords that much more. So I'm excited today to talk through Headless and Composable, CDPs, security hygiene or cybersecurity hygiene, multi-cloud infrastructure, data science, AI, mobile first, human-computer interaction, and user-centered design. So a lot of fun topic areas for us today. Obviously, as you have questions, feel free to drop them into the question portion of the interface, and we will look to try and answer those as best possible, either throughout or as we move to the end of the presentation, looking to wrap up answering any questions that have been submitted. So overall, let's jump right into Headless. And Headless is one that doesn't just apply to commerce. I've got an example here from BigCommerce, one of our other partners, just talking about Headless from an e-commerce perspective, but there's a Headless approach in multitude of areas. So really at the end of the day, it's the separation of the front end and back end, and it can be an e-commerce application, it can be a content application. We work with many clients who are also looking at content delivery methods through a headless approach. And at the kind of forefront of it, it's really going in and saying, hey, your platform, which used to handle all this with templates and page templates and themes, is now actually just separating the two experiences so that we have a back end that you put all of your content in that you want displayed, and you have a front end that's implemented to display that content as it pulls it from one to many different sources. And as we look through the opportunities of why to go headless, a lot of aspects come from time saved. And that time saved is because we can now make front end changes without being tied to back end template or page template changes, component template changes that may have to be applied by developer, pushed to production, and sent out through that standard method of development. We're now allowing the front end developers to really build that interface out with JavaScript and HTML and CSS and call in the ability to display what they need because the backend supports those calls through that API layer. So as you see in the diagram on the right, the user experience is all that front end, the presentation layer, but we also tie into reporting analytics, and we have this API layer, which is really connecting us to all the different systems that are out there. With this, we really just want to make sure that we look at being able to launch things quickly. That's one of the promises of Headless. We look at rich user experiences and interfaces and how those are applicable to what we need to deliver in different devices, different viewing formats, with over 54% of the world now starting mobile first. We'll talk about this in a later point, but it is important to be able to let each of those devices deliver a rich user experience and an interface that is engaging to your end customer or your end user. And Headless really gives us this approach by providing an opportunity to go in and decouple that presentation layer so you can really make it what you need, but also so that you can look at how to use the content in multiple channels. And when you look at that opportunity and the ability to have these calls through that API layer to deliver in a different assortment of channels, it really extends the capabilities of your organization so that you're not having duplicate redundant content in different systems, but you truly get to that core system that is where you manage your content, and then it is dispersed out through that API layer wherever you need it to go. And it's presented however you need it to go. Could be your front end facing website to the public. Could be a portal interface that your dealers or that your customers log into for additional information. And it could even go down into mobile apps or kiosks. It all depends on what you need to deliver your content in which channels, where Headless can come into play. So Headless, it's here to stay, and it's one that a lot of the different platforms that are out there are starting to embrace and are creating that API layer so that you can call that information through to present wherever you need to present it. So Headless is definitely something, as you look at either a full stack developer or a front end developer and a back end developer, there are skill sets specifically for how to deliver upon it on both sides of the fence. As we look at Composable, our second buzzword, so Composable is really about different ways to abstract, and we talk about physical locations in the definition, but it's managed through software and a web-based interface, right? So we can take different components. We can say, hey, I'm pulling from this specific application to display this information over here, but we're making it in these composable areas so that we don't have to have everything going through a single interface. We can have pre-existing building blocks, and those are allowing us to do a plug and play model in a sense, where I can build out these blocks, I can drop them into my page, and I can allow a lot of different types of front end users to apply these throughout. And you build a library of these. And when you have this library, it allows you to very quickly update the UX feel, but it also allows you to integrate in from other solutions. So a lot of times we have systems now like Salesforce that would have APIs. We can bring the information inbound into one of these composable widgets, and then a marketing user or a content admin could go in and they could build out this kind of micro app. They could build out a web page. They could build out a dashboard for whatever they need with these pre-built components, but they don't have to go in. They can just configure them to what they need to display, and those components are already set up in a responsive method, so that whether it's on a website or on a desktop computer, or if it's on a mobile device, it's responsively adjusting to that screen, and those components are already there, and you don't have to recreate them every time. And it really enables those end users to go in and build out these future application experiences. And it allows you to create new business scenarios. And Gartner talks about this in their 2021 strategic roadmap for the composable future of applications. So it's very much a new focus. It's been there in the past of how people have built different solutions, but it's one that's now approaching the entire enterprise and taking that modular approach into the entire business holistically. So we want to deliver outcomes throughout different areas. So again, whether it's a website and it's customer facing, or it's an internal department need where they need to be able to do reporting, building this composable library out across your enterprise is going to be a big growth as we move forward into 2022. So as we look at number 3, a CDP, this is a customer data platform. And there's the fun motion sensor in my office that turned my light off. 1 second here, let me wave it back on. And we look at CDPs. So CDPs are really coming into play to create this comprehensive database of customer information that's accessible to other systems. So we've had CRMs, we've had ERPs, we've had OMSs for order management systems, and we have this customer data that's just everywhere. It also goes into your marketing automation platforms. And there's the need to bring all this information back together, and that's what the CDP is really doing. It's aggregating all of that customer data from all of the different touch points that your customer has with your organization. And what we want to do, and what the CDP helps organizations do, is to transform all those disjointed data points into a single unified profile of the customer. And this is extremely important because it allows us to very effectively use this information, all that data, to create these 360-degree customer profiles. Now, this is not new. 360-degree customer profiles have been talked about for 10 plus years in the industry. And we've had this data and we've used it in different ways, but we're really bringing the CDP in to then help make decisions about segmentation and how to look at the kind of big next wave of marketing automation, in my opinion, of automated user journeys. And these automated user journeys are critical from the marketing automation platforms that are out there today to be able to be powered by all of this data that the CDP can pull together. And we want to activate all of this rich data because it's context rich. And that context is so important in the way that we don't just do personalization anymore, it's really individualized experiences. And the reason that we're at that point is because we've had a lot of the large organizations that customers are daily engaging with, such as Netflix and Amazon and others, that are really creating a unique experience based off all the data they have. People have come to expect that personalized, but at that individual level now, experience overall. Now, on the B2C side, I'd say that's 100% accurate. You need to look at how to deliver on that if your customer base is ready for it. not every organization's customer base is ready for individualization. Segmentation is still very appropriate. It is not dead in terms of how you group and target to those groups of people. And the reason for that is because there's a different level of maturity for everyone's customers at each organization. So as you grow in your maturity with your customers' expectations, that's going to allow you to see where certain areas of your business may need to be more individualized and others might still be more segmentized. And the reason for this is because we don't want to go in and put all the effort into individualizing the experience if it's not going to benefit the organization's bottom line. The customer experience is critical, but that has to be tied into impacting your bottom line as an organization. So the CDP brings a whole other aspect of data management. It brings into the evaluation of how to make decisions and where those decisions are applied to deliver across multiple channels. And that can be anywhere from email to social to even a call center who can utilize this information to deliver the best experience. And I would say one example from real life for me is I shopped online back in May from a large retailer for a new couch. And I bought this couch alongside of my wife, and we made that decision. We put in the order, and they gave us some good heads up and information about the delivery expectations, logistics, and everything else that were going on. And they said, all right, well, you bought this end of May. It's not going to ship and be to you until end of October. We're like, okay, well, at least it's before the holidays. Then in September, we got the email of, hey, your shipment's been delayed. Now, what was nice is they actually pulled in all the information from the original ship date. They included a note to call and talk with them about any concerns that we have. And so I actually did. And I called them and talked to them, and they explained the exact problem. What was great about the experience was that they actually understood exactly what I ordered. I didn't have to go into much depth of what my order number was or anything. They had that information at their fingertips. They immediately were empowered to actually give me an additional discount on my order because of the delay, because it got pushed from October until end of January. And it was due to this international foam shortage, which I had no idea was more the problem than the logistics of shipping right now, but that's what it was. But the fact that that call center support person was empowered to not only have all the information about my order, my past history with them as a loyal customer, and then also that information or the ability to provide me an additional discount without having to go through the whole rigmarole of, oh, let me go talk to my supervisor and see what we can do. I didn't have to push for it. That experience was critical. And knowing that they have a CDP behind the scenes to deliver that is where you can continue to deliver customer experiences like that. Now, behind CDPs is always implementations and integrations. So learning all the important aspects of how to connect that data and have that data cleansed as best possible because of duplicate aspects of customer information is a key part of going through CDPs. Security hygiene or cybersecurity hygiene, topic number 4. So this is overall just basic health and security for hardware and software. And this is just a critical thing with today's day and age. There's more and more security attempts to break through security at organizations. Usually within the month, you'll see or get an update from one of your data, banks or whoever it may be. There's been a security breach. I just had one with my healthcare provider this summer. And so there's all sorts of aspects to making sure that you go through just basic steps with just health and security hygiene overall with your organization. Now, this comes into how do we apply this into an organization? Well, there's all the common steps of using anti-malware, firewalls. There's all sorts of phishing attempts that happen that are out there, especially via email. And you have to make sure that you have a process in place to handle either updates to those or training and educating your staff and even your personal life, your family members on what to watch out for. The biggest thing here for organizations, especially with the impact of the pandemic, would be require VPN use for any remote workers. tie in using network segregation overall as well, because those aspects will keep you secure when they're not in your office on your network. That'll bring them back in and give you that control. If you're not doing that, ensuring that you're doing that is critical. Strong password policies. This is, I would say, just it's been hammered home for years and years, and still I'm shocked at where we see my personal life, my wife, who doesn't want to use strong passwords because she has her go-to ones. Overall, though, that's where there's a lot of tools out there that help enforce that. But looking at the length of those as well, additional characters and numbers, capitalization, etc., that benefit that strength of the password. Alongside of that, though, and a lot of applications and organizations have added in multi-factor authentication, and bringing that into play is key, because that really does drive in an additional layer of protection, which is great. So there's a lot more here. Regularly patching, updating software, encryption is huge, and then a lot of times it's employee-owned devices that are also the concern, right? So how many phones come in and connect to your Wi-Fi at your organization, ensuring that you have that all addressed. Even things like printers, making sure those are secure. Overall, there's just a lot of great standard common sense practices around security hygiene, cybersecurity hygiene, that should be a set go-to, check off the list, yearly review that you do at your organization. As we move into even more being digital, and we saw the force of that, of digital transformation accelerating at a pace beyond what it was even predicted to be due to COVID, there's that many more things with platforms and e-commerce solutions and payment providers that if you're implementing, you need to make sure that you're following the best practices around security as you implement and integrate all the different solutions that an organization may have that need to be connected. Multi-cloud architecture. So multi-cloud infrastructure, sorry, not architecture, multi-cloud infrastructure really is a culmination of just where I think the application and hosting side has grown into over the years. Back in the day, it was, you know, the server and the data center, and you had the man traps. We still have data centers that are all out there. I mean, the biggest thing I always say is the cloud is still a server in a room somewhere. And it's really about the ability, though, now that I can go and have my application hosted and different functions of my needs as an organization, different pieces of my applications hosted in different clouds, and really having the ability to have the freedom of choice. And I can go to Azure, I could go to AWS, I could go to a custom cloud solution that's out there with storage. There's all sorts of options now to choose from. Most of them allow you to do very similar aspects of things. We pick on the two big ones, Azure and AWS. All of them can do big data processing. All of them have storage. All of them can host CRMs or have those. But then we also have applications that are cloud-based, right? SaaS-based. So with that SaaS in the cloud, now we're going out and we have the ability for scalability, right? So I have the aspects of going out and having an international delivery, but the speed is still there because I'm distributed through multiple cloud hosting locations. So there's a lot of benefit to multi-cloud and multi-location aspects. Overall, though, there's also some cons, and some of that comes in with complexity of management. If you have both applications in Azure and AWS, you have two different levels of management that you have to have. We have hybrid approaches that are happening where people are going in and they're both doing local data centers inside their organization and stuff in the cloud. You're managing in multiple areas. So overall, lots of great uses that you can have with multi-cloud. You can also leverage IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and we can have platform as a service. And I mentioned already software as a service, right? So we can use the multi-cloud infrastructure just for the purpose of redundancy and system backup, if that is a concern for your organization. So it really has benefits for the end user as the organization, for all of their end users to be able to still access the information or site or application when they need to. So the multi-cloud approach has really just grown, as I've mentioned. And I think a lot of that also has stemmed from solutions like Salesforce and others like Office 365, where they're providing all of that in the cloud now, and they are going into the browser-based approach versus the hard application install on the local machine, and then having that always connect. Or you have a hybrid where you have both options. I have the application as well as I have the browser-based interface. Data science. So this one is an exciting area for me. I've been really trying to dig into it the past few years. I am not a data scientist by any means, but it's more been just an interest area as so much more is being done with all of the volume of data that has been collected over the years now. Big data, I always say, it's been around for a long time now, from when it first really started coming to be a buzzword. And it really is, I think, in 2022, taking the next step with the push for data science and data scientists to come in and really look at the analysis and models and creating actionable plans. And at the end of the day, data science is so much more than just the algorithms and those models. It's actually the analysis that you are using to make decisions and what you're solving for. But a lot of that stems from the beginning part of it, which is the scientific side of it. And so there's different methods that we go through with data science. And one of the biggest areas kind of coming out of that is the growth of ML and AI. Overall, though, data science, I think, is just going to continue to see growth in terms of individual teams that are actually stood up inside of organizations. I've seen a lot of that growth already, but I'm just going to expect continued growth in those areas as we move forward into 2022. And all of that stems around from having tools like the CDP that we talked about earlier, the multi-cloud infrastructure where we have the opportunity to do big data analysis and run queries and test out new ML models. So there's a multitude of different disciplines under data science, in my perspective, that are really going to continue to grow organizations. Now, the use of all this data ties into also the cleanliness of that data. The cleanliness is the most important part, and we can talk about structured versus unstructured data, data warehouses, data lakes, and with all of that, it's a key area for where you need to understand what you need to do. That's where data scientists can come in and start to help. They have to answer the business problems through the use of all the data that's there and in different means of whether they structure or unstructure it. A lot more like to go unstructured on the data lake side and really just do their queries. And when they build that out, it then gives them the structure that they need for that specific query and build out. That's where we really want to see the growth of individuals who have that scientific and mathematical mind to build, but also the business knowledge and skill set to understand how to answer those questions and deliver it in a simple interface for the end users. So as we look at the artificial intelligence side of everything, and we're in the 7th inning here, so we're almost through. We go 10 with the buzzword topics here. But artificial intelligence is, at the end of the day, the simulation of human intelligence by machines. And there's all sorts of different artificial intelligence frameworks, and I've got those highlighted in the left there. If you have any interest in this space, you are probably recognizing almost all of those, or at least a few. And there's a lot of different ways that we can look to have AI be built into the internal processes of an organization. Statista had a great chart from 2020 that I just wanted to make sure that we talk through is what is the leading drivers for AI adoption? And the first and foremost, and it was so great to see that this was the leading driver, is to deliver a better customer experience. And that, at the end of the day, again, goes back to how we're utilizing CDPs and that information. The AI frameworks can parse the data from those CDPs and use it to then help deliver smart segments into what we're going to deliver, choosing the next best content for that segment based off of the analytics data from the website. It can pull in from the CRM what is the top selling region and provide information there. It can pull in from your e-commerce OMS what products are selling with these products. We've seen this used in different organizations. We're just seeing it used even more now. And especially as AI has become more affordable to implement and different platforms have started to implement AI functionality, it really is going to take 2022 into the next level of AI utilization through multiple areas of your customer experience. The next one, which is even more critical in my personal opinion, is to improve employee productivity. And the improvement of employee productivity is huge because there used to be all this work done if you were on the data side in spreadsheets and looking to build out and understand what information was trending and identifying the different patterns. And there was aspects of functionality inside those tools when you're working with spreadsheets, but there's other employee productivity too. Choosing when to schedule the best time to post on social. You can manually choose it, or you can let an AI solution actually tell you that this is the most engagement time that you get from all of your followers, and here's when to actually post this post. Take it a step further, not only this post, but this category of post. If you have different topics or services, you can post at different times that best engage those audiences. If there's a shift, it can alert you to that. So employee productivity is actually increasing because they have smarter information coming to them that's telling them what's happening before they have to start going and look for what's happening. So it's an incredible growth opportunity on the employee side to let the tools benefit their decision making because they're being informed through them. A lot of other areas that were listed out there for leading drivers. One of the aspects of AI overall that a lot of people have talked about in the industry the past year or so has really been the growth of chatbot utilization. And when is it appropriate to have an AI-powered chatbot versus when the human experience starts? And the biggest thing I can say there is ensuring that whatever implementation you go forward with, make sure that your AI chatbot correctly passes that information through either CRM, CDP, whatever you have in place, so that if you do get a live person, they don't start asking you the same questions the chatbot did. It should be empowering them with information already collected that's very common to start with before tying up a support agent in that live chat. So it's really interesting. Go out, play with it on different sites. You can see which ones have done it well and which ones haven't. And it's one area that if you are going to look to implement anything with AI is ensuring that the human experience at the end of the day and the output of what that AI is utilized for is accurately delivering what it should be. And that a lot of times comes back to making sure that you're looking at the customer experience or the employee experience and ensuring that it is driving to what they need in the human experience of engaging with you or your organization, your website or app, whatever it may be. Mobile first. The next few slides are really going to go into a bit more of the UX and visual design front end. So mobile first, it's been around for a long time. Don't get me wrong. It's still one though that I wanted to focus on for going into 2022, because in 2022, the majority of website visitors will come from a mobile device. So if you want to make sure that you're appearing relevant and providing the best possible user experience, a mobile first website is essential. Mobile users are continuing to generate over 54% of all website traffic in 2021. And in 2021, the number of smartphone users in the US exceeded 280 million. So we have a device first experience that is starting on mobile. Ensuring that your website starts in a mobile first design process is critical, because there's a lot of information that you can present, but when you are showing it on a mobile device, scrolling still happens, but there are different aspects to how that engagement really comes from what's most important, and visually, what do you still need to show? So we can always, with responsive, expand and contract the amount of information based on the screen size, but really start with that mobile first experience so that you know that you are attributing the most important content is always going to reach that end user. The image on the right is a great one if you haven't seen it before, of just how the thumb is naturally used in a mobile device when you're holding it. And this is really interesting to see how Apple has, even in their latest iOS 15, shifted the UI of Safari, their web browser, to actually bring some of the bottom of the screen more into play with the utility navigation bar and going through different share tools and everything at the bottom now, because that's naturally where your thumb is. Before, it was more of a two-hand approach where you would hold it in one hand and you'd use your index finger typically of the other hand, and it didn't matter as much. But more people are doing the one-handed and the thumb as the main touch input device, to call it that. And you can see, right, the top section of your menu bar, or sorry, of your device is stretching, what is not natural anymore. So we were placing UI elements into a difficult to reach location, bring it back in to the natural areas. Really understand that. There's a lot of great tools out there that also help you understand how your users use your sites and how far they scroll, heat mapping tools, etc. And it's really interesting when we use that user behavior analysis to understand where to place elements on a site, how far to have content reach from a scroll perspective, and just really understanding what are our users experiencing versus what a designer thinks is best. Tie the two together. Use best practices, use the research that's out there, but also let your users give you the correct commentary of where you may need to make adjustments. The other aspect of just mobile first that I would say is that even search engines are focusing on the mobile friendliness of a website. And Google's been using this actually since 2016, and they're continuing to look at the speed and performance. So when you go in that mobile first design, it's also all about the performance and speed for ranking and mobile friendliness for that ranking signal. So we want to make sure that it's optimized on the mobile devices, and you want to make sure that you are accounting for the fact that almost 61% of just organic search engine visits in the US, so that's people going to Google and typing it in, so it's an organic search engine search, 61% were all on mobile. So if you want to come up in search, you have to make sure that you are reaching your audience on the mobile device by providing the best possible mobile experience. Human-computer interaction. This is not a new buzzword, but it is a buzzword continuing into 2022 that has been surfacing with all the different aspects of the continued growth of understanding how we interact with our devices. And overall, it's just ensuring that when we look at the interfaces that we build and the way that we are building out different functionality, that we're doing it from, again, that human mindset of how are we interacting with the device, and is the device providing back the expected information in the right context for me as the end user. So there's different disciplines of human-computer interaction. There's the computer science, human factor engineering, and cognitive science approaches. Now, overall, all this goes into how people use websites and what you do when you plan specific UI elements. There's all sorts of best practices and research and training out there surrounding this. At the end of the day, ensuring that your end user is reaching what they need to reach, that's the most important thing. And a lot of times we like to tie analytics back into understanding the human-computer interaction, surveying, where we actually get that qualitative feedback as well as quantitative about how people are interacting with what we've built. This goes into apps, websites. I mean, it even goes into how you are just powering on devices and the expected understanding of how to do all of that. It's a field that continues to grow. I've seen more and more programs surrounding human-computer interaction, so it's one that I would definitely recommend going into 2022. That is a key area as we continue to have digital be the primary experience that people have in their day-to-day lives. All right, we're on our last point. We made it all the way through with 10 buzzwords, and our last one is all about user-centered design. So user-centered design is also known as human-centered design, or it's also known as human-centric design. So it's pretty hard. I didn't want to put all of those immediately onto the slide. I would make it even more busy than it already is. But the whole idea behind user-centered design or one of those other terms that it's also called, is keeping the user first and foremost in any decision-making process. And so the way that technology evolves, we don't just want to add something shiny and new. We want to add what the user needs. And there's business decisions, there's user recommendations. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that the ultimate user need is what is driving what is designed. And there's a process through this, and there's these 5 steps that have been created and they're taught. And the aspect of going through this, right, we start with emphasize, right? We want to go in and we want to observe and establish empathy with the users. Who are they, right? Identify the personas that come in and engage with your website or your app. Do user interviews. Build out an experience journey map. How do they experience what they're looking for when they come in and start searching or browsing through your site? Then we move into discover and define. We gather insights and test and define known user needs. We really want to look at understanding their desires. What are your business goals alongside of users' desires? And then what's the problem? And then monitor their behavior as they continue moving through. Ideate and create. So this is a big area of growth that I would say over the past 4 or 5 years, we've seen even more willingness to prototype and ideate and create, and that leads into taking these wireframes and building them out into a prototype to simulate a solution and validating it through different testing methods. We also have A/B testing that helps with user-centered design. We see that some people react really well to certain colors for call to action buttons or certain words. It's based differently by generation. How do we bring all of those factors in as we're looking to design out a user interface, how we design out a mobile application, a website, whatever it may be? We have to look at all those varying factors and test them. As we continue moving through, we develop and completely repeat the process over and over and over again. And this is where back in the day, it used to be that you would launch a website or an application and you let it sit for a year or two. You'd make some slight updates to it, and then you'd really go through a full redesign process. Now, with the capabilities that we have, we can really test this immediately on the fly. You can have thousands of tests. Amazon's running thousands of tests a day on their website. And there's all sorts of different ways to bring this into other areas as well. But the focus here is really making sure that you aren't delivering something such as smart search with an autocomplete. It's not for everyone. So sometimes an overcomplicated solution really isn't necessary. So don't just add it because it's cool. If it's not going to benefit the user, ask yourself, why am I looking to add this in when I'm designing something out? With all of that, it's the wrap up of our 10 buzzwords going into 2022. It's a lot of different areas, a lot of varying degrees of UX and UI focused in the last 3, to more core platforms, to multi-cloud infrastructure, to very popular ways that a lot of different solutions are starting to frame their end solution with the aspects of headless and composable. At this time, though, I really would love to take any questions and run through those with kind of the last 10, 15 minutes or so here. Let me pull that up. And Steve, I don't know if you saw any along the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm right here. I was just oh yeah, there's a comment. Somebody else felt your pain on the Macy's couch question. Oh, I was going to actually another question, and that was Tim. Obviously, looking at these buzzwords gives us a sense of what's hot and current right now. And I wanted to ask you how any of what we've talked about over the past hour might play into what you envision in 2022. We can already envision some changes. So, more and more people back in the office. What trends do you see influencing these areas in the coming year?
Absolutely. So definitely the security hygiene one, as I mentioned, with kind of the hybrid work approach or full remote work, that's going to be a big one. That just what our organization is going to do to ensure VPNs. There's different devices out there that can be implemented that force work machines to go through a VPN in an at-home situation, wherever someone may be. I think that's going to continue to grow because of the approach and impact moving into 2022 that has changed the workplace. I think the other one is really just as I mentioned, the data science side, and especially tied into the CDP, that growth of the connected information. I think next year is just going to be one of the big areas that are focused on, because honestly, it was interesting to see how shopping patterns changed last year with the force of lack of ability to go in store. So you had a lot of places implement new functionality in their e-commerce delivery for buy online, pick up curbside, buy online, return curbside. So I think that that's going to be a continued growth of focus where I would say I've even started to kind of see my local Best Buy do this, of they're becoming more of a warehouse versus a retail store in that sense. They still have the store aspect, but because of the buy online, pick up curbside, it's actually taking over some of the buy online, pick up in store that was happening before. So I think we're going to continue to see growth in just the functional aspect of, hey, if I pull up, I just quick check in for these stores, more will probably implement that. And all that then stems into what we just wrapped up with around user-centered design. How do we make sure that that is a quick experience and it's not a lengthened one because it's not a well-designed one?
Hey, Tim, thank you. Open the floor up to any additional questions. We are watching the questions box and the chat box for anything else that anybody may have. While we're watching, Tim, I wanted to ask you another question. I mean, American Eagle has a really unique vantage point that you work with a lot of the North America's and the world's leading retailers on their e-commerce presences, and for a wide variety of other organizations. Are there new types of, since you are developers, and I know some of the people on this call are in development organizations, are there new types of asks that you're anticipating for this coming year from your clients that might be of interest to our listeners, since they may be in roles where they might get requests that would be relevant?
Yeah, so I think that the expansion upon portal solutions and intranets is going to be a big development growth as you have more remote workers potentially at organizations, but also especially with that composable development process and headless, where you really are focused on the API utilization and just having, as a developer, a clear understanding of how to utilize APIs, how to build out APIs for internal systems potentially, depending on what your organization has in place. A lot of B2B organizations may have older systems and you have to build an API layer through a different solution or a middleware that then can connect out. And a lot of organizations are looking at upgrading some of those older systems right now. So understanding what a new system would allow them to do and really focusing in on that headless and composable approach is an area that I would encourage anyone to really get a good understanding of on the development side.
Excellent. Tim, thank you. Hey, as we near the end of our time together, a last call for questions from the audience. If you have any, please don't hesitate to put them either in the questions, or you can even chat it back to us. We are here for you and eager to field any questions. Oh, nice. One of our attendees, Daniel, let us know that he had no questions, but just wanted to say thank you for being here and for presenting today.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. I look forward to more. And again, if anyone does have any further questions afterwards or wants to reach out, I can put my email up for you. You can also find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I like to try and stay as buzzword friendly as possible in those channels. So there's a lot of reposts that I do, as well as some of my own content that goes out, just talking about all these different areas and trying to make sure that I'm constantly educating myself. And that'd be kind of my last point to everyone is, how do we make sure that we're constantly staying up to date with not only what's trending as a buzzword, but what's really starting to take hold as a buzzword that'll convert into a trend that really should be focused upon. And that would be just the constant learning. There's so much that's out there. There's all sorts of different great people out there putting content out. Follow the areas that are of interest to you, and that'll really keep you up to date on what's happening.
Tim, we just got a really interesting question from Rex. It should be near and dear to your heart. How do you see businesses and digital marketers addressing the phasing out of third-party cookies next year?
Oh, this is a fun one. Yes, Cookie Monster has come, and I see that there's a couple different ways that's going to be addressed. First off, it's already been pushed back a couple years because the big players like Google have not figured out exactly how they want to approach it. There is a shift in what they're doing towards more of the segment-based look. So right now they are trending towards what is called FLOC, F-L-O-C, Federated Learning of Cohorts, and where they're really replacing that individual tracking with more of lumping you into a group based off of behavior, so that you can use that inside of your analysis and tools within the advertising marketing world. I think that it is going to be replaced by something else at the end of the day. I don't think that anyone's going to want to completely be without the ability to personalize through marketing. And honestly, I would also say that as much as you have the option already to be anonymous in certain aspects of different browser functionality, we still see that people are more than willing to share their information to receive the personalized or individualized, as I talked about earlier, experience. And so I think that they're going to look at different tools and solutions. They're going to come out saying that they offer it. And then really we're going to be led by, I feel, the big players, Apple, Google, Facebook, into what they change in their models. That's going to be what businesses and digital marketers really need to follow. There's going to be a lot of, I would say, startups that are going to say, we can do this, we can do that. I would really take that with a grain of salt and really evaluate and listen to the big players, because they're the ones who make the most with all their advertising engines that almost everyone is using anyways. So use them as your guide.
Excellent advice, Tim. Thank you. We also had a note from Pierre just saying thank you, great explanations, and much appreciated.
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, excellent. Final, we're down to our last 4 or 5 minutes together. Just a final call for any other questions. Going once, going twice. Well, since I don't see any, if we don't get preempted by the time I conclude, then I'd just like to thank all of our clients and friends for joining us for today's webinar. It's been a great pleasure having you here. We hope that when you think of any needs that you may have in the training world for data science training, application development training, or any other kind of IT training, that you'll think of Accelebrate. Afterwards, you will get a link to the video of today's presentation. Please don't hesitate to share it with your friends, and please share our YouTube channel with your friends as well as liking and subscribing yourself. Similarly, we hope that if you and your organization have any need for a boost in your development or e-commerce initiatives, that you'll think fondly of our good friends at AmericanEagle.com. We've had a great relationship for several years. Consider their values to be in line very much with our own, and encourage you to consider them for help in those areas. Tim, thank you again for being on with us. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. And to everyone, at least here in the US, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you again.